Remember when I toured Ecuador, USA last year? That visit really boosted my confidence to import from them. This is a 1 year update since I've shopped from them. And let me break it to you, it's not a glow up video. Some struggled, some survived, but one in particular didn't make it. So hey guys, welcome to another video. If you're new here, this is a faceless YouTube channel where I share my personal plant growing experience with y'all. Today, I want to share with you guys exactly what happened to these plants since I imported them a little over a year ago. For a step-by-step guide on how I acclimated them here in Trinidad, and it's no different to how they do it internationally really, I'll link this video for you guys in the description and at the end of this video. So let's get on with it. Right now you're seeing the plants fresh out of the box, stressed, adjusting, and honestly unpredictable. But in my opinion, they don't look too bad, right? They were wrapped in sphagnum moss. They weren't like overly droopy or so. It looked pretty good in my mind. And I thought that, okay, I just have to acclimate these, maybe just some rehydration, give them some vitamins, and they should be on their way. But before we get to each individual plant, I think it's worth understanding what my growing conditions are. This part is particularly important for me because I'm really curious as to who else might have these plants that I'm about to present to you guys and how you've been growing them under what conditions. For me, most of my plants grow in a greenhouse or in a shaded area outdoors. I live in Trinidad in the Caribbean, which has high humidity, warm temperatures, and bright light year round. I currently live within the mountains of the northern range, so basically the forest is my backyard. Where my plants live right now, they receive morning sun from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. My plants that live in the greenhouse are way less tolerant to direct light. Some of the plants that I'm featuring today from the import live in there and others are outside, and at one point I was actually plant styling with one in the house. But my imported plants weren't always living here. Remember, I moved homes. Up on the screen right now was their first home. All in all to say, they had to acclimate twice, all in 1 year. So let's get to the plants now. I'm going to start with a 1 month update at my previous residence, which you're seeing up on the screen now. Okay, so I'm going to start with my silver sword plant. That's the common name. I'll put the scientific name up for y'all as well. What it looked like out of the box is in the smaller frame, and in the large frame, this was it fully hydrated and me potting it up at that point where it was absolutely stunning. Ecuador really was able to provide a super good quality plant. I was really happy upon receiving it, and it really took 48 hours to soak to come back to a fully hydrated state. And I did use some great white to boost it a little bit and to just buffer it from additional stress from the whole import process in general. So this was it potted up and ready to go at my old residence. After 1 month, this is what it looked like. I forgot to mention that I received two plants from them, and in 1 month, it grew 3 new leaves, and I would say it doubled in size. This was all at my old residence. At this point, I was thinking that the best care for it at the time was peace lily care. That was the thinking that I had. I'm going to show y'all exactly where it was living, which is in this little jungle here that I've created under a fruit tree canopy. So the temperatures were quite cool for the entire day, I would say, because they were well shaded by large trees above. Here's where it lived and was loving it. Then I moved home 6 months later and it started living inside with me. So the change from living in the perfect jungle to indoors, let me tell you now, was not the best for this one. It started browning, it started getting crispy, and it was not liking living inside. I still thought to myself that it could live inside for a little while longer. I had no choice anyway because the greenhouse wasn't built then. So I was really crossing my fingers at that point, hoping that it would, just start to acclimate to indoors. But that never happened. But luckily, the greenhouse was up and running soon after, and I placed it in there. And I'm going to give you all the update now, which would be the present day state that it's in, which is this. So it's not the greatest update, and this is my plea for any help or suggestions that you all might have. I lost one of the plants. Remember, it was a two plant setup, and now it's only one plant with three leaves. I mean, the leaves are a lot larger, which I'm happy for, and I'm happy that it's alive, but it has declined, having had to reacclimate, I guess, from the jungle to inside my house and now into the greenhouse. So I'm hoping at this point, and I guess for the majority of my plants, I'm hoping to just provide stability so that these plants could just live and not be moving around and just being disturbed all the time. I think that is something that I personally take for granted. I love decorating with my plants, so I'm always moving them around, and plants like stability, So it might seem obvious, but I'm always so tempted to decorate and just restyle the space, and it's not always the best choice. And this one really was an example of that. So my plan going forward for this is to leave it alone, give it high humidity, and stay on top of the watering. And on to the next. This one, at first, I was a bit disappointed because it did not look like a new plant in my collection. It looked like one that I already had, which was my Amydrium medium silver. Take a closer look at it here. To me, if you have a medium silver, you'll understand what I mean. But I comforted myself thinking that it was in the juvie state. This is my Amydrium medium silver. And at this point, I can't tell the difference between the two. Both of them have this bluish color, and the veining seems to be the same. I really could not tell the difference. But in my hand is the Amydrium Spiderman. It acclimated well, and again, Ecuagenera provided a good quality plant. To get it on its way, I just placed it next to my medium silver because I knew that spot that one was thriving in. So just a reminder, this is what it looked like out of the box, pretty tiny. And my number one tip for Amydrium is to get it on a pole as soon as. This is the 1 month update. This is after acclimation and import. So basically it gained size, but it did not grow any new leaves. Now, from my experience growing Amydrium, they love to focus on establishing themselves onto a pole or a support system. The majority of the time is spent doing that, as well as rooting. Once that is done sufficiently, then the plant pushes out new leaves. So after 1 month, it just gained size alone, but I was satisfied with that. I knew it was healthy, I knew it was happy. So now it's just to leave it alone and let it just do its thing over time. Generally, I find Amydrium to be really easy care, almost like philodendrons, and I'll get into some tips next. I want to preface the tips by sharing this first. If you're a Amydrium lover or if you want to get into Amydrium, this is why I personally love this species, because it is so resilient. So upon moving to my new home, I had to chuck all my plants into this dark garage. So after import stress and basically settling down for a couple months, I had to then put it in here and hope for the best is technically what I was doing. Today, and 1 year after import and multiple acclimating periods, this is what it looks like. I can finally feel the thrill of the purchase. Look at the leaf closely. You can see the veins are a lot darker than the Amydrium silver, so that I'm finally accepting that it is an Amydrium Spiderman. This is so exciting for me present day. And coming back to the tips, my number one tip, like I mentioned before, is to basically get it on a support. I have added this cococoya pole to the back of the piece of wood that I was using to stabilize it initially. I wasn't going to try and take it off of that, so I just added it on, and it has been happily growing that way. I really think I'm on my way to have it looking like my Amydrium silver. By the way, this is just a top cut of my Amydrium. If you've been following me on Instagram or for a while, you would know that this plant was towering over me. In terms of growing conditions for this one, exactly what you're doing with your phyllos, just do it with that. In this case, because I had this one chucked away in the garage and conditions were not favorable, that's why there's so much bare stem below the newest set of leaves. I think it's fairly tolerant of a wide range of humidity readings, so like from regular household humidity to my greenhouse humidity, which can go as high as 80%, seems to be favorable for it. It loves bright light and even a little gentle direct sun. There's 70% coverage in my greenhouse, but this one is really close to the polycarbonate sheets or the walls, so it does receive some diffused bright light all through the day. It's tolerant of underwatering, but over time those tips will brown. And on to the next from this import, and it's my Spathiphyllum Ivanportillae. This is it. After 1 month, there were 2 plants in here. The second one got crown rot, unfortunately, but it has pushed out some new leaves and it has gained some size. So in general, I think my plan of treating this one like a typical peace lily really worked. It's no different. However, because I chucked it under a bunch of larger plants, I feel like the leaves and the crown of the plant stayed wet for too long, hence the crown rot. So the takeaway here is to make sure that it has enough airflow. Otherwise, rotting is going to happen. Rotting doesn't only happen in the soil from overwatering. Your foliage and stems of your plant usually rot when there isn't sufficient airflow. I'm just throwing back a picture here of what it looked like out of the box. Not bad, right? So I really think I'm going to be shopping from Ecuador again very soon. Now, after 1 year, this is what it looks like. Now, remember, it got chucked away into the garage when we moved, and unfortunately, I lost one of the 2 plants that was originally in this pot. I did not repot it, but it has really grown and it really loves living in the greenhouse. Those browning tips is what it acquired while it was in the garage. It still hasn't actually shed it completely, but underwatering will cause this, as well as lighting conditions that's too low and too low humidity. So I put this one to live amongst my Anthuriums and it has been loving it. I'm just showing you all how I lost the second plant, but I'm hoping that it pops for me soon, and I'm so happy that this one is happy again, and I really am excited to show you all that it actually bloomed in the greenhouse for me recently. If you're following me on Instagram, you would have seen me obsessing over it over there. I really did not expect it, and I'm going to show you all what it looks like next. Here's the bloom. I think this one will make a great indoor plant as well, just like regular peace lilies. I would recommend that you group it together with other houseplants to create a microclimate where the humidity wouldn't drop too low to cause browning tips. Okay, so up next was, I don't want to say another disappointment because my Amydrium Spiderman really turned out to be that, but next up is my Anthurium Magnificum Silver. On the right of my peace lily, this is what it looked like on the Ecuador website, and I fell in love with it and I ordered it, and I want to show you all what it looked like when I actually received it. Okay, so the inset frame, the smaller frame, is what it looked like fresh out of the box. It was massive and healthy. I really can't complain in terms of that. This is what it looked like 1 month after import. It put out this new leaf, and during that time, I was chatting with other collectors about if they had a mag silver, and most mentioned that it's a maturity thing. So I'm hoping it turns into what it looked like in the picture, but this is what it looked like 1 month after it was thriving and healthy. In terms of those things, I really can't complain. It was doing well. It loved my old residence in the jungle, I would say, naturally, because the humidity was high, temperatures were cool, and it loved it. Let me show you what it looks like now at my new home. So here it is 1 year after, but having faced a ton of challenges, it has declined, but it's still here. It still doesn't look like what it looked like on the website, but we're gonna let some more time pass and I'll keep you all posted in terms of if it really changes. I'm happy it's still alive, but I don't think this is a mag silver. With all that said, though, it really just requires regular, typical Anthurium care. There's nothing special or unique about it, in my opinion. The yellowing around the edges was because I missed the window to repot it in time, but it didn't really fuss too much, so it does have some resilience. I mean, it did live in my garage for a few months. I do see a new leaf on the way, so, nothing too special, nothing really unique to report about it, but I think I want to throw back some footage for you guys of when I got it in hand. The reason I'm doubling back to here is because I know Anthuriums are quite popular right now, and I want to show you all how great it shipped. Look at those roots. I actually potted this one up first out of all that I got in, and the leaves were unscarred. So in terms of Ecuagenera's ability to ship Anthuriums, which are so hot right now, I would definitely recommend them. Up next is the one that was the most difficult to acclimate. This actually turned into a rehab project. After a 24-hour soak, it did not perk up. So I added some Super Thrive to give it a little nutrition, even though I knew some of these roots were rotted already from severe dehydration during import. After doing a deep dive on these roots, I still thought there was significant enough healthy roots for me to go ahead and pot it up when it started to perk back up a bit, and that only happened after 48 hours. So these were the healthy roots that I was left with, and I went ahead and potted it back up because I know it's sensitive to dehydration and I didn't want to risk that again. And this is it 1 month after. If you haven't recognized this plant, this is Philodendron sp. Colombia. It lived in the jungle at my old residence where the canopy was quite dense, so it enjoyed cool temperatures, high humidity, and frequent watering. This one is a thirsty one. It did not put out any new leaves for me because we had some root loss upon import, but it is showing signs of a new one being on the way. I want to show you all exactly what it looked like out of the box. This was how floppy it was, and these were the roots that you could have seen was dehydrated, but I didn't want to do any root pruning until I really gave it a soak and understood what it looked like. So here's what it looks like 1 month after. Nothing much to report other than I think it has stabilized, and a new leaf does seem to be on the way, well, at that point, and it's going to have to face the move to my new home now. And so, after facing the move to my new residence and after 1 year, I have to say this one has been the most rewarding. The new leaves have been sizing up consecutively, and to me, that's all I need. They are just outstanding. Just take a look at how massive they are. All of those are new leaves, by the way. The only thing I would really say about this one is that it's quite thirsty. I don't think I mentioned that it's a crawler actually, but I treat it just like my Gloriosum and my Mamiai and other crawlers, and it just does not disappoint. I'm looking at the footage, and I am still in awe because it really is magnificent. It commands a space. I can't wait to style with this one somewhere. So if you do have this in Trinidad, please get in touch. I'd love to know how it's been for you. And the last one from this importer is another Philo, and this one shipped flawlessly. Look at how much roots and look at how much foliage. It was massive. It's my Philodendron Esmeraldense Naru. Compared to the Philodendron sp. Colombia, which you saw previously, which was a hot mess, this one I could not complain about. It was glorious. This was again one of, I think I potted this one up after I potted the Mag Silver. I didn't hesitate at all. Those roots were great. I had my Great White on hand, and this one was on its way in no time. I want to mention here that when I potted this one up, I potted it up to feel root bound. I read and was doing research on it, and some other growers mentioned that for some reason it kickstarts the rehab process. So I did that, and I didn't add a pole as yet. I said, you know what, when I actually up pot it, then I will add the pole. And this is 1 month after. Potting it up root bound really did work. It pushed out that leaf in no time, and the plant was just looking outstanding. It was massive. I didn't lose any leaves. However, I did get some edema. I figure that was just from root damage during import or when I potted it up. But I think, it really bounced back well, and I really can't complain. This one really was a beautiful, beautiful one. And I'm going to show you guys, well, I don't really have much to show because this one sadly did not survive the move. So this is what I think went wrong. When I chucked it into the garage at my new residence, it was not receiving sufficient light. In hindsight, and actually from making this video, I'm now realizing the edema spots should have told me that this one is water sensitive. All in all, to say, it rotted, and that makes sense now because insufficient light in a soggy pot will cause it to rot, and the entire thing just basically perished, and I have nothing to show. But I have seen that Magnolia Landscaping started stocking it, so I might just go pick one up there and try this one again because it's just too magnificent to not have in my collection. And that's it for the update after import. If there's anything I've learned from this experience is that importing plants need time. Sometimes a lot more than you expect. Growth doesn't mean success, stability does, and your environment will always determine the results. If you're currently acclimating imported plants or thinking about importing, let me know your experience in the comments. I'd love to hear how it's going for you. And if you want to see the full journey, you can check out part 1 where I unbox these plants. I will link it at the end of this video as well as in the description and in the top comment. Thanks so much for joining me on this one, and I look forward to making the next one for you all.